Police are investigating comments made by Northern Ireland Health Minister Jim Wells after he linked child abuse and gay relationships. He told a hustings event, "You don't bring a child up in a homosexual relationship. That a child is far more likely to be abused and neglected." The minister was then interrupted by uproar from the audience. In a later statement, he said, "I accept that one line of what I said caused offence and deep concern." Mr. Wells added, "I regret having wrongly made that remark about abuse and I'm sorry those words were uttered. The comment did not reflect my view nor that of my party." The police said they had received a complaint and officers were currently making inquiries. Mr. Wells, the DUP South Down candidate in the May 7 election, made the comments during a discussion on gay marriage. DUP leader and Northern Ireland First Minister Peter Robinson said the DUP stood by Mr. Wells. Mr. Robinson said Mr. Wells accepted the remarks were offensive and that is why he has apologized. In an initial statement, Mr. Wells said he was saddened that some people were trying to misrepresent my comments. In a second statement on Friday morning, Mr. Wells said the past few weeks had been extremely difficult for him personally as he had just come from a hospital visit. He added, "Within seconds of realizing this error, I asked the chairman to let me back in and twice corrected my remarks before the debate moved on." This clarification has been confirmed by the journalists present at the event. Partial clips, spin and selective reporting regrettably miss this. The neglect or abuse of children is awful and happens in unstable relationships whether they are heterosexual or homosexual. I make no distinction between anyone who neglects or abuses a child regardless of their sexual orientation. I trust people will accept my explanation and my apology." Distanced. The editor of the Down recorder Paul Symington chaired Thursday night's event. "You can tell by the recording that the vast majority of the audience members were outraged," he said. "The debate was reasonably good-tempered up until that point, but once he made those remarks there was a pretty big backlash. A member of the public made a formal complaint after the debate and police have visited St. Patrick's Centre as part of investigation." Chris Hazard, Sinn Féin's Westminster candidate for the constituency who was at the debate, said the comments call into question Mr. Wells' responsibility and ability to run a health service for all. "Unfortunately, this is only the latest in a long line of attacks on the LGBT community by the DUP. I am calling on his party leader Peter Robinson to make it clear where he stands on Mr. Wells' views." Mr. Wells' party colleague Pam Cameron, the South Antrim MLA, distanced herself from the remarks. She tweeted, "If what I am hearing from numbers to hustings is being reported correctly, I as a DUP MLA disagree and disassociate myself from such comments." The Ulster Unionist Party said the comments were absolutely appalling, and totally wrong. They were outrageous comments from Jim Wells that would attempt to link same-sex partnerships with increased incidences of child abuse and neglect, a party statement said. UUP leader Mike Nesbitt told the BBC's Nolan show that an electoral pact between his party and the DUP, in 4 Westminster constituencies, remained in place. "I was content to say that what we want is the majority of the 18 MPs going to Westminster on May 8 are pro-union," he said. "And I remain in that position. That does not mean that I am content with everything that the DUP stand for beyond their belief that the union is the best way forward. Assembly rules. However," he added, "Jim Wells needs to do more in deed and in action to prove that the real Jim Wells is reflected in this morning's statement rather than in yesterday's comment. If the real Jim Wells is reflected in yesterday's comment, I do not have any time for Jim Wells to be the Minister for Health." South Down Conservative candidate Felicity Buchan also attended the hustings event. "I would like an official statement coming from the DUP, apologizing for those remarks," she said. "The Conservative Party and I personally do not in any way agree with what was said." Alliance North Down MLA, Stephen Ferry, said, "There is absolutely no link between the incidents of abuse and neglect and the sexual orientation of parents," he said. "Nor indeed, is there any difference between two-parent and single-parent households. Alliance will be looking to raise this matter with Assembly officials and ask them to investigate whether he has broken any Assembly rules." His credibility in office has been seriously undermined by these remarks. The SDLP said it was going to submit a motion of no confidence in Mr. Wells. Margaret Ritchie, who is standing as an SDLP candidate, said his comments were completely unacceptable. "We need to show understanding and compassion on this issue," she said. Saddened. In his earlier statement, Mr. Wells said that during the debate he refused to agree with an audience member that marriage should be redefined. "I oppose the redefinition of marriage. Indeed, the Assembly has voted 3 times on this matter, and every time a cross-party selection of Malays have supported the current definition of marriage," he said. "At the hustings event, I said that marriage was a stable environment to raise children. I am saddened that some people were trying to misrepresent my comments. Where there are non-stable relationships involving children, whether heterosexual or homosexual, the children suffer. I make no distinction between anyone who neglects a child on the basis of their sexual orientation." Other candidates standing in the South Down constituency are UUP's Harold McKee, UKIP's Henry Riley and the Alliance Party's Martin Todd.